Yeah, I just started crying when you were saying that, by the way, because it's really not fair. I want to give back as much as I can while I have the time. Experiencing this firsthand is a very humbling process, and I have no right to be feeling sorry for these people. These people that I knew have so much pride and so much dignity, and they don't want handouts and they don't want anything free. They want opportunity, they want jobs, they want to go back home, and we will do everything that we can to make that possible and to make that process a bit easier.
What's going on, everyone? It's Ramblings of a Sea. First of all, welcome to the new visitors who are here thanks to a quirk in the YouTube algorithm, and welcome back to all of those who have been supporting the channel for some time. Today we're going to find out all about the founder of the washing machine project, the inventions that they create that amongst other things are helping to provide freedom to women across the global south, and the work that they're doing across the world in over a dozen countries. A quick request before we get into it, please make sure to like, comment and subscribe. I've been told that if you do all three, you'll get extra prashad when you go to the Gurdwara. Let me know if that works for you in the comments below. Today I have the absolute pleasure to talk to Navjot Sawhney, the founder of the washing machine project. Before we get into it, I just have to say thank you so much for joining us, and then secondly, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate it. And I love your work, and I'm so proud to be on this podcast.
Thank you. I do really appreciate the support. I think we've both now been following one another for some time. Now, before we find out more about the washing machine project and the inventions and the work that you do, I want to find out more about its founder, you. I guess in a nutshell, who is Navjot Sawhney?
Yeah, well, I was born in London in the 90s. My father was caught up in the partition and lost everything, like many other Punjabi families. And the idea of displacement was kind of ingrained into me from a very, very young age. There'd be conversations when I was very young about how they'd have to leave everything behind. My granddad had a bullet pass his head and decided to pack up everything and leave. And that really affected my family and the social construct of my father's family. And my grandfather never really recovered. And my father's traumas was still with him right up until he passed away. And so displacement's always been at the heart of certainly my existence. My mother came to the UK to marry my father. She had £5 in her pocket, and she's a lady of force for good and so inspirational. And my father, died when I was very young. I was 7 years old, and I was born and brought up with two sisters, and then my mother who brought me up. And I knew firsthand the importance of women in the household and how powerful women are to just get stuff done, And engineering was always something that was bubbling away when I was a kid. My father was an aerospace engineer. I'll be a very curious child, be taken to air shows and would be fascinated with how these big aircrafts would be in the sky. I'd come back home and I'd take out the toolbox from the cupboard and I'd break everything. And I used to really make my mum quite angry, and studying aerospace engineering was a really natural transition at university. So I did that, and in our community, seva and selfless service is just second nature, right? You just do it. I was a part of scouting here in Southall, and the scouts really taught me that giving back is the only way forward, because we're in quite a bit of a bubble. Selfless service is the only purpose in life. So these kind of key themes in my life led me to graduating, and then I joined one of the world's best graduate programs, a global technology company, and I felt like I hit cloud nine. And I was there for 3.5 years. I loved it so much. I was literally felt like I was the don of the whole company. I was the only Singh at the time, I remember. And I thought I want to stay here forever. All the vacancies vacuum cleaned forever. 3 years in, I realized that every bit of good engineering that I'm doing is making a vacuum cleaner for a rich middle class person around the world. And I decided to quit my job and go on sabbatical, and that really pissed my mum off.
I was just about to ask, what did your mom say when it came to quitting this essentially perfect job to then go and volunteer halfway across the world.
Yeah, I think at the time I was not happy. I was working really long hours, 60 hours a week sometimes, with this organization where my values didn't sit right, and it took a lot of persuading. At the time, I wanted to move to South India to make cook stoves for a year and a half, and when I told my mom about that, it was like an atom bomb went off in my house. And yeah, it was really tough conversations. At the time, I really wanted to come back and go to the same company. So I begged them. I was like, please let me back in. But they didn't. And they didn't have that sabbatical policy. And so I just had to quit my job. And so it was a very nervous time. And I went to South India. I was making these cook stoves at the time. So a large part of the world, 50% of the world's population aren't lucky as you and I. They have to forage for wood to cook their food, and it's disproportionately placed on women who go into forest and are subjected to gender-based violence and the time away from livelihood opportunity. And it's just really, really tough for these women that have to do it every day. And we're making these fuel-efficient, smokeless chulas in South India, and the experience was just fascinating. I would have an idea. We would have an idea. We'd prototype on Tuesday. Wednesday, we'd have that prototype in the field, and by Thursday, we'd get feedback straight away from the auntie who's using our stove. My roti's not puffing enough, or my cooking is too small, and that kind of living lab, we called it. And by Friday, we'd have another prototype, and we'd make thousands of these prototypes. We'd distribute thousands of these, and we made a 10-pound cook stove. Reduced the cook stove's emissions by 90% and fuel by 50%. Really very rewarding stuff. And I knew that at that point that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And the washing machine project started there. I'm sure we can talk about that a bit later.
When you say that you're making these cook stoves in South India and you're reducing emissions by 90%, or you're the fuel efficiency by 50%, how are you, obviously I don't want you to give your secrets away, but how are you achieving these results?
Yeah, I think to solve any problem, you have to be really, really passionate about the problem itself. One of my mentors said, fall in love with the problem, because the solution will always change. It was the case with cook stoves and smoke emissions, and really inefficient, So we did a lot of research. I had a team around me, and I was working with an organization called Prakriti, who were really set up in the environment. And we would go to these villages and interview people on their current cooking habits and trying to solve some of these key problems, whether it's access to wood or charcoal or dung, the cataracts or the breathing problems that they face when breathing in smoke. And then there's, you apply these kind of scientific principles to various hardware products, and then you just have to test, and you fail so much. And, I've told you all about the successes, but, you fail all the time, and you just have to get used to failure, because that's the part of the development cycle of making anything.
So from these gas cooking stoves then, how did the idea of the actual washing machine come about?
Yeah, so I was living in this very rural village. It's called Kulapalayam, about 3 hours south of Chennai on the coast. Beautiful sunrises. And the village I was staying in was just a million miles away from where I was brought up in London. It was 40-degree heat, continuous blackouts. There'd be days with no electricity. So no fans, no air conditioning, no refrigeration, all these kinds of things that I've grown up to be accustomed with, weren't there, the luxuries of life. And, there would be open defecation, open sewers. I'd get ill every month. And I really kind of immersed myself in this village. I became very good friends with my next door neighbor. Her name was Navjot. She was a 30-something stay-at-home mum, and she got married at the age of 16 because that was a thing to do. She had 2 kids. She spoke perfect English. And she was the only lady on the street that spoke perfect English. My Tamil was rubbish, so we became best friends. She learned this English in high school, but never used it since. So she used me as a guinea pig to test her English, and we'd catch up on the day's activities when I get back from work. And Divya's life was just an everyday struggle. From the moment that she woke up to the moment that she slept, she'd have to forage for wood to cook her food. She would have to stand in line for water. She would have to hand wash her clothes. Everything that I took for granted, Divya had to spend hours and hours extra on. This kind of unpaid labor trap that disproportionately placed on women is wide-reaching. Who washes your clothes? Who books your doctor's appointment? Who makes your food? It's women in your life, and it's really unfair. And I saw that firsthand for people living in developing countries, and I wanted to target that for my friend, and that's where the promise for making Divya a manual washing machine came from. Her eyes lit up, and we've never looked back since from that promise in 2018. That was 4 years ago. Our mission is really, really simple. We're creating manual crank handle washing machines that save time, water, and effort for the 70% of the world's population who have no access to electric washing machines.
So from that promise then, how did that develop into the first prototype?
Yeah, well, I was destined to come back home, so I needed to come back to the UK anyway. So I came back in 2018, armed with this promise. I started the washing machine project, and I knew I couldn't do this alone. It's just too big of a problem, and I wasn't an expert in humanitarianism. I didn't know anything about the UN system or Oxfam Care International, how agencies fund projects and how they distribute machines in places around the world. So I really needed to learn that. So I took up a master's at University of Bath in humanitarianism. So I did that for 2 years. It was a kind of long distance master's part-time. And my course was amazing. I was the only engineer, and it really makes me so angry that we have so many good engineers making really trivial products, whether it's a more efficient car or a more efficient vacuum cleaner, whereas Divya and Kausek, the Syrian mother in the Lebanese refugee camp that I met last week, there's 10 kids and has been there for 9 years. These basic products are not reaching them. So I was the only engineer on this humanitarianism course, and a lot of the people were really senior in these really big charities, decision makers in government, and there's not one engineer at the table advising people on what people really need. And so I was really at the right place at the right time. I was talking about the idea of this manual washing machine that I wanted to create, and one of my peers on the course was quite senior in Iraq in a charity there, and he invited me and my colleague Alex to Iraq for a 5-day field visit. But at the time we didn't have a prototype, so we got really worried that we wouldn't have anything to show. And so I remember Alex put together this really rough and ready prototype in 2 days over the weekend, and we flew on the Monday. And we took this bag, we took our washing machine with our clothes inside it on the flight. It looked like a bomb, and it looked really dodgy. And we took these prototype to this refugee camp in Iraq, where we interviewed 79 families, and that was the first kind of penny drop moment where people loved it and people wanted an alternative to hand washing clothes. Before that, there were times where we'd have brainstorming sessions in my mum's house, in the kitchen, and we kind of went back to basics of what works well. And the salad spinner came up as an idea, and that's really stuck to the current design. And I think creating any solution, you need to really understand your end user. And that's why we've traveled to 13 countries now and interviewed 4,000 families on washing habits. So how big is your family? How long do you wash clothes for? Where do you wash it? Where do you feel pain, if any? And that's how we design our product with a kind of user-centered approach. And so I know for a fact in Uganda, where we conducted 900 surveys right now, that the average age of a woman washing clothes is about 33, and the average age when they started was 6. So, think of how many years they've been spending hours a day on this one activity, and think of the opportunity lost. And so this is the kind of battle that we're facing. We named our prototype Divya after the inspiration, and we're now at the Divya 1.5, which is the kind of washer and dryer that you see on social media.
So what technology is incorporated into the washing machine that makes it so user-friendly in terms of being lightweight for the end user?
Yeah, so washing has been around for centuries. So, we're not going to revolutionize how people wash clothes, It's clothes, soap and water. And, how people are washing the clothes in electric washing machines is really kind of well proved out now, that there's a drum, it's got a certain configuration. Now, we wanted to simplify the process as much as possible and make it robust and reliable so that, if it breaks, people can fix it remotely. So essentially what we created was a 5 kg front-loaded washing machine, which is similar to washing machines at home in the UK. And it uses around 30 litres of water. It has a gear in it that spins at about 500 RPM, making it easier to rotate. And it also dries your clothes. So, the 30 litres that go in, 70% of those 30 litres come out, and so you could use that for water reuse. And so what that means is you're reducing the time by 75% and the water by 50% compared to hand washing clothes. Hand washing clothes is really inefficient with time and really inefficient with water. And we're improving posture, the interaction with detergent and soap, causes skin irritation, and so we're limiting that with creating an enclosed washing machine. And so this is where we're at right now, but our dream is to have a complete product portfolio of bigger automatics, semi-automatics, manuals, and bigger laundrettes in the future. And this is really the beginning, and it's just really humbling to have so much interest. We've had requests from 25 countries now, 5,000 washing machines, and I'm really shocked. It's just phenomenal. I couldn't have wished for anything better.
I certainly find the work that you're doing inspiring, and I'm sure others do too, because the work that you and the washing machine project do is literally life-changing. Now, just coming back to the washing machine for a second, it's this gear then that makes it so user-friendly and lightweight. Now, if for some instance that breaks or something else breaks, how is that repaired or replaced?
Yeah, so it's really hard to send a service engineer to a refugee camp in Lebanon or Iraq. So, let me take you back to what a refugee camp is. Yeah, so this is a space that was a barren land, and then overnight, essentially, thousands and thousands of people descend on this place and then make homes out of this area. So they put up tents, caravans, they have bustling informal economies. You can, there's barbers, there's supermarkets, there's a mechanic, there's a playground. These are kind of good standard refugee camps. There's obviously some really bad refugee camps out there. And so I think we need to reframe what a refugee camp looks like. So when something breaks on our machine, we want to make it as reusable and repairable as possible. So like this mouse that I have, I would literally have to break this mouse to put it back together again. It's snap fit. Whereas on that machine, everything is screwed together so it can be removable. All the parts are off the shelf, so you could locally source those parts. And then we train up mechanics to fix them. I mean, if it's irreparable, we replace it.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. How has it been then working with some of your partners? So I noticed that you're working with Oxfam, you're working with Electrocomponents.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an engineer, and so I have, when I started, I had like no idea how to create a brand, how to create an organization, how to get partners on board, and how to push something out there. So I had to learn this, and with an incredible team, by the way, and the team that I have are just so great at what they do. My passion is just to make the life better for people who are struggling so much. I just keep telling that story, and it's the storytelling piece that engages people, I think. And I say to them, don't forget Vidya, because she's still living that life. Don't forget counseling. Don't forget Lamia in Iraq, and they need your help. And I'm just a conduit between the two. And the vehicle of change. And for these amazing corporates like Electrocomponents who are funding us for the next 3 years and deploying 8,000 washing machines in 10 countries, it's amazing. And as corporates, the employees want organizations to do more. COVID has shown us that we are mere mortals, and we are, we're stuck at home feeling really sorry about ourselves. And we want to help people, and organizations like the Washing Machine Project are doing it. And we require support, and it's just natural to partner up with people that want to make the world a better place.
No, definitely. I was watching an interview that you done with Now This last night in preparation for this, just to try and figure out some interesting questions. And you'd commented, and to be fair, you actually hinted to it earlier, which is that you're hoping to become a global leading organization for humanitarian appliances. And as you'd said earlier, you kind of want a whole range of washing machines. Just putting the washing machines to the side though for a second, what other problems have you identified that require a solution that you could provide?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I was on the border of Syria and Lebanon last week, got back on Saturday, and it was -7, there was a snowstorm, completely no power, no access to gas. So how does one cope in a shack with metal walls or a tent in that condition with a family of 12? So as an engineer, when I go to these places, there's problems literally everywhere, whether it's off-the-grid lighting, air conditioning, sanitation, off-the-grid refrigeration is something that we are looking at right now as our next product. And that should be, we should be talking more about that later on this year, mid this year, and have something a bit more physical to show at the end of this year. And we'll be looking back at this moment and this podcast in 10 years' time and laugh at the time where we just made manual washing machines. We said that, I want to become the Dyson of the humanitarian world, and we will not stop until we have really high scale, high impact right across the world.
I'm certainly cheering you on, and I hope that it all works out for you and you do become the Dyson of the humanitarian world. Now, one last question I've got is, visiting these refugee camps in war-torn areas or areas that have been struck by famine or some type of natural disaster must have an impact on you. And secondly, you must visit these places and see a number of problems that you can provide a solution to, but for whatever reason can't provide it instantly. So how is that all for you?
Yeah, I just started crying when you were saying that, by the way, because it's really not fair. This could happen to anyone, and we're just so lucky to be born and brought up in a fairly stable country. I really have not had to worry about money. I'm so lucky. I'm so privileged, and I want to give back as much as I can while I have the time. In the space on this planet, and experiencing this firsthand is a very humbling process. And I have no right to be feeling sorry for these people. These people that I meet have so much pride and so much dignity, and they don't want handouts and they don't want anything free. They want opportunity, they want jobs, they want to go back home, they want a safe space to go back to. And we will do everything that we can to make that possible and to make that process a bit easier whilst they're in the conditions that they are in. And for me, going to these places and learning from you them, understanding their stories and how their daily life is. It's just, it brings it back home and puts it in perspective for me. I remember when I came home from India, I would sit on the floor, I would eat with my hands, I would try everything to feel connected, but nothing can make you feel connected without going there and, experiencing what I feel. And on the flip side of things, I really try hard not to virtue signal or say that I'm holier than thou. Everyone has their own circumstance. My mum taught me a very kind of interesting lesson. She was like, Nav, no one has changed apart from you. You're the one that's experiencing these things. And it's your job to come back and tell people, but don't get angry at people for not changing. It's not their fault. It's your job to persuade them to come along the journey with you and change the world. I thought that was a really beautiful moment as to how to change the mindset. Yes, there's billions of people struggling, but one washing machine can make an impact on a family. It would allow Sugama, Divya's 7-year-old son, the opportunity to go to school because Divya could go work and pay for his education. And that one washing machine is all that it takes. That's all that matters.
It's amazing. Genuinely amazing. I just want to double check. I've gone through the list of questions that I wanted to ask you in terms of kind of getting an idea about the washing machine project, understanding you a little bit more, and kind of the impact that all of this has on you. Is there anything in particular that you wanted to go over or mention or include?
Yeah, I think people often ask, when they see the work that we're doing, or just any other work, and how can we help? We're not doing anything special here, you could, just by knowing about the problem is half the battle won. To talk about it, whether that's talking to your relative or your friends or your family or work colleagues, sharing it, liking it, commenting on it is really, really important.
A quick question then, I guess, which would be useful to ask is, where can people find you in terms of socials? Where's the website? If they wanted to donate, how does it work?
Yeah, so the washing machine project is on social media, on that name. You can find us on the washingmachineproject.org on our website. And we have a GoFundMe campaign right now, and you can donate what you can to distribute a washing machine. We distribute these washing machines at cost, and 100% of your donation will go to the development and deployment of these machines right across the world. Give generously and please don't forget people like Divya, because they need your support.
So for those of you watching who are interested and do want to get involved and help the washing machine project, you can find all the relevant links in the description down below. Now I do have one last question, and I promise it is the last one. What are your plans for 2022?
We have just finished our pilot in Iraq. This is our third pilot. And over the last 6 months, we've had so many orders and so much interest. We're currently making our machines here in the UK, in South Wales. This is quite inefficient, and we want to try and make them for people in the location. So we're going to locations like Mexico and India and Uganda right now to find local manufacturers that to manufacture these. Avoiding all the kind of logistics associated to making products here in the UK. Now, that's really quite challenging. It's going to take 6 to 9 months to do that. That's our main challenge, and then facilitating the 4,000 orders that we're getting right now. So really buckling down and ramping up the production of the machines over the next 6 to 9 months this year, and then more products will come out over the next couple of years, and then ramping up and scaling up those. So yeah, there's a huge development cycle associated to going from hundreds of washing machines to thousands of washing machines.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, all I can say for that is good luck. I hope everything goes according to plan.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the support.
Nah, not a problem, man. All right, what I'll do then is I will leave you to the rest of your day. I honestly can't say thank you enough for taking the time out to do this.
Take care.
Take care, take it easy, man. So you made it to the end of another podcast episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like and comment below what your favorite part was. More importantly, don't forget to support the work the Washing Machine Project are doing. You can find all the relevant links in the description below this video. Otherwise than that, I will see you all in the next one.